Thank you, and good morning to everyone. We're going to get started now. But before we begin the council session today, I'd like to make the following announcement. Due to the continuing threat to public health from COVID-19, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, the Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting and can be also found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance say a couple of words to make sure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues in the city of Philadelphia. Good morning.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Dom.
Morning, Council President, colleagues, and the city of Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues, and Philadelphia present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the city of Philadelphia. Praying that we do not have another mass shooting next week.
Good morning. Join in your prayer, sir.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Sending out prayers to all the families that have lost loved ones in senseless gun violence.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Philadelphia. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present as well.
Good morning.
Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Education.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
And good morning to you all. We've established our quorum. We're going to get started. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Pastor Brian H. Grant of Germantown Christian Assembly. He's here today as the guest of Councilman Green. I would ask all members and guests to please bow your heads for the invocation. Pastor, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Council President Clark, and I want to thank Councilman Green for his invitation today. Just let me just say one thing. I'm aware that, many in our country no longer believe in prayer. But I believe after the horrific events of this week and all of what we have been seeing, it's good to have a God who we can turn to. And we're just going to petition him. He invites us to come boldly to his throne of grace. And so let's go there right now. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the open access we have to you. Thank you that at your throne of grace, we can obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. And Father, we need help right now. We need your mercy and your grace to take us through the storms facing our broken country and our divided nation. We pray that you, the God of all comforts, will give strength and comfort to the parents and the loved ones grieving, not only from the horrific tragedies that has happened recently in Texas and in New York, but Lord, we pray for the families that are grieving because of the senseless murders that have been taking place on the streets of many of our cities. God, we need you really badly. But Father, as we come seeking your help, we must admit that we have not always been faithful to you. And so, God, we ask that you might forgive us for drifting away from your path. God, that you may forgive us for allowing our feet to stray from the place where we met you, God, that you might forgive us for allowing ourselves to become so drunk by the wine of the world that very often we have forgotten you. God, we need you right now. And I pray that by your Spirit, you will draw each one of us nearer to you. We thank you for the members of the Philadelphia City Council, members who you have ordained to lead this city at such a time as this. Lord, we know their work is not easy, for every day they must grapple with challenges that are so huge. And I pray, God, that you will help them. You will give them the wisdom that they need to unravel and find solutions to these problems. And I pray, Lord, that they will recognize there is help in Jesus. And I pray that they indeed will seek your wisdom, and they may get your wisdom. You tell us that for those of us who ask of you wisdom, you will give us liberally. So give them liberally of your wisdom, we pray. Strengthen them and help them as only you can. And Lord, through them, bless our city and bring change. And we thank you for what you will do in the name of our Savior, Lord, and Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor, so much for your invocation and your spiritual guidance this morning. We really appreciate it and much needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 19, 2022, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 19, 2022 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 19, 2022 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and our journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Let the record reflect Councilwoman Gim is present. And the chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning certain legislative matters that may arise during the course of today's session of council and that were not listed on the calendar circulated prior to today's session.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that any of the following matters, if considered today, may be added to the agenda for this session of council and as required by law, subsequently published on an amended agenda after the consideration of those matters, resolutions authorizing hearings, amendments to bills on first reading, the reconsideration of a bill vetoed by or recalled from the mayor, resolutions taking substantive action to be voted on in this session, a motion to withdraw a bill or resolution that is not on the calendar, and a motion placing a bill or resolution on or returning a bill or resolution from the suspension calendar that is not listed on today's calendar. The purpose of this motion is to provide the public with notice concerning possible actions by council that arose too late to be included on the calendar that was published prior to today's session.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the legislative matters stated by Councilwoman Parker may be added to the agenda for today should those matters arise during the course of this council session. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carried. Let the record also reflect that Councilwoman Brooks is present also. And our next order of business is communications. And I would ask the clerk to please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that he may have in his possession.
From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia, pursuant to sections 4, 604, and 2307 of the Home Rule Charter, I am today transmitting to the council the recommendation of the City Planning Commission on the following bills. Council amendments to capital program and budget 220284 and 220285 as proposed May 10, 2022, and bill numbers 220338, 220357, 220358, 220363, and 220366. And I'm pleased to advise you that on May 24, 2022, I signed the following bills which were passed by council at its session on May 12, 2022. Bill number 220186, and 220261. And I am transmitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 2868 Amber Street, 2022 East Fletcher Street, and 2106 East Stella Street in the First Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1310, 1315, 1320, 1322, 1326, and 1349 South Corley Street, 3000, 310, 3018, 3026, 3046, and 3050 Titan Street, 3002, 3003, 3009, and 3014 through 3026 Wharton Street, 1537 South Patton Street, 1334 South 30th Street, and 1329 South 31st Street, located in the Second Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 650, 658, and 662 North Conestoga Street, 5436 West Brevard Avenue, 5552 Harmer Street, 642 North Sickle Street, 644 North Sickle Street, 653 North Sickle Street, 534 through 536 North 54th Street, 538 through 540, 546 and 550 North 54th Street, 623 through 33, 650, 641, 643, 645, 647, 649, 651, 653, and 655 North 55th Street, located in the 4th Councilmanic District. And a resolution confirming the appointment of Sarah Ashley Andrews to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. And a resolution confirming the appointment of Charles Wayne Lamb to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia. And an ordinance authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of a service agreement between the City of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Energy Authority relating to the financing of the construction, equipping, and installation of an energy-efficient city street lighting system and related improvements, approving the issuance by such authority of bonds, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness in one or more series to finance or refinance such project, and authorizing the approving the obligation of the city to pay in full when due the service fee and other amounts payable under the service agreement. And an ordinance authorizing the Fire Commissioner and the Revenue Commissioner on behalf of the city to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Human Services to enable the city to maintain and provide access to emergency medical services. And an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2023 capital budget providing for the expenditures for the capital purposes of the Philadelphia Gas Works, including supplying of funds in connection therewith, subject to certain constraints and conditions. And an ordinance authorizing the Philadelphia Gas Works by Philadelphia Facilities Management Corporation, solely in its capacity as operator and manager of the city-owned Philadelphia Gas Works, to enter into an amendment to lease with Germantown Realty Investment Group for certain premises located at 212 through 214 West Shelton Avenue. And an ordinance approving a substantial amendment to the Annual Action Plan 2001-2022 to add $42,007,561 in Home American Rescue Plan funding. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property and the Director of Commerce on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into a lease agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for property within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Interstate 95 right-of-way between Spring Garden Street and Allegheny Avenue, as well as certain portions of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's North Delaware Avenue right-of-way between Spring Garden Street and Allegheny Avenue, and certain portions of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Richmond Street right-of-way between Spring Garden and Allegheny Avenue, to be further subleased by the city to the Delaware River Waterfront Corporation. And an ordinance amending section 192600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Business Income and Receipts Taxes with respect to allocation and apportionment of income and receipts inside and outside of the city. And an ordinance authorizing the Chief Information Officer for the City of Philadelphia on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into a professional services agreement for up to 60 months in order to obtain hosting and managed services for the One Philly HR benefits payroll time and attendance system. And an ordinance authorizing the Director of Planning and Development on behalf of the city to file applications with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for a community development block grant, to file applications to participate in the Home Investment Partnership Program and the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and to apply for a housing opportunities for persons with AIDS grant. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to convey to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania all or a portion of a parcel or parcels of land in and about the area bounded by Front Street, East Allen Street, Canal Street, and Laurel Street. And an ordinance authorizing the city treasurer on behalf of the city to enter into an amendment agreement with Citizens Bank of Pennsylvania for provision of payroll banking services to the city. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city of Philadelphia to grant Pico Energy Company an easement for the purpose of installing transmission lines across a portion of the parcels of land in the area bounded by 34th Street, Grace Ferry Avenue, and the Schuylkill River Pierhead Line. And an ordinance authorizing the Chief Executive Office of Philadelphia International Airport to enter into use and lease agreements between the city and each of the airlines servicing Philadelphia International Airport. And an ordinance authorizing the Procurement Commissioner on behalf of the city to enter into an agreement with the Philadelphia Energy Authority to purchase electricity and certain attributes and benefits related to the generation of such electricity from a solar energy facility to be built and owned by Solaire USA P&E, located at Northeast Philadelphia Airport, for use at and in connection with city facilities, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our communications, and our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we are asking that all resolutions, including privileged resolutions, be placed on the final passes calendar at our next session of council, unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide the appropriate opportunity for public comment. I'd like to thank you very much in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of the legislation that's being offered today by our members.
Councilwoman Parker offers 5 bills and 4 resolutions. On behalf of Council President Clark, an ordinance amending Section 19-2600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Business Income and Receipts Taxes with respect to allocation and apportionment of income and receipts inside and outside of the city. Also on behalf of Council President Clark, an ordinance amending Title 19 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Finance, Taxes, and Collections by adding a new chapter 19-4500 entitled Low Income Tax Provisions, providing for the refund or forgiveness of real estate tax liability of certain low-income residents attributable to real estate tax increases and increases in the assessed value of the taxpayer's homestead. On behalf, Councilwoman Parker offers an ordinance amending Title 22 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Employees Retirement Code by modifying the circumstances when City of Philadelphia retirees continue to receive retirement benefits following reemployment, providing for other related benefit requirements, and making certain technical changes, and amending Chapter 2900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Health and Welfare Benefits for Pensioned Employees by modifying the circumstances when the City of Philadelphia retirees who are reemployed must contribute to their health and welfare benefits and to any applicable union. Mr. President, Councilwoman Parker will be like to be recognized.
At this point, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, when we unveiled the Philadelphia Neighborhood Safety and Community Policing Plan on March the 30th, one of the things I stated for the record was that the people of Philadelphia did not want us, those of us who are elected to public office, to simply be expert articulators of the problems facing our city. Instead, Mr. President, I affirmed what I wholeheartedly believe, and that is that the people from all walks of life and neighborhoods across our city want us to proffer solutions with a sense of urgency in efforts to ensure that the overall public health and safety of our city is, in fact, our #1 priority. With this in mind, Mr. President, I have to thank our law department and my staff, Rachel and Jennifer in particular, for going beyond the call of duty to turn around this legislation to meet the timeline that we are working against. I must also state for the record that while I have not met in person with any of our municipal unions regarding this legislation, it has been circulated to each of them, and I will be meeting with them, Mr. President and colleagues, individually to listen to their perspectives and address any concerns they may have about this legislation. But I want to ensure for the record that we understand what we are dealing with here in the city. As of today, the fire department has 700 positions. They are short of their full complement, and that includes paramedics, firefighters, and DMTs. The police, we learned during callbacks yesterday, were 502 22 positions short of their allowable full complement of sworn officers. They also, Mr. President, affirmed to us on the record that the only challenge standing in the way of implementing at scale proactive community policing in neighborhoods, that is bike patrol and beat officers, was manpower. The Department of Corrections, Mr. President, is short 633 correctional officers. And what I didn't know is that aside from its impact on the public health and safety of our prisons, is that it is also impacting the department's ability to promote employees from within. To our Illinois Commissioner DiPietro, I apologize for not being able to get to you in time to get your real-time numbers as of this morning, but according to the budget materials that were submitted to us as of November the 28th, they only had 355 of their 433 positions filled. For the benefit of the viewing public, Mr. President, I want people to know what this legislation that I proffered this morning actually does. It amends Title 22 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Public Employees Retirement Code, by allowing the city to rehire retirees while allowing them to retain their monthly pension. In order for this legislation to be implemented, Mr. President, the mayor would have to declare that an extraordinary circumstance exists which threatens the public health, safety, and welfare of this city, and he must also identify specific departments and the types of employees that need to be rehired without having their pension benefits suspended. And then, Mr. President, to ensure that there were checks and balances and the mayor couldn't unilaterally make this decision alone, our legislative body, the City Council of Philadelphia, would have to approve such a declaration with a resolution. These rehired retirees could be reemployed for up to 3 years. They would earn a paycheck while still also receiving their monthly pension. At the same time, they would not have to pay into the pension fund. And this is important to note, particularly for those who've been advocates of retirement security. They would not earn additional service credit under their pension plan because we wanted to make sure that the fiscal health of our city and our pension plan in particular was shored up. The bill also amends Chapter 20-900 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Health and Welfare Benefits for Pension Employees, and it clarifies that any rehired retiree would have to make contributions to the applicable health and welfare fund and pay union dues during their period of rehiring, because we are unapologetically supportive of our unionized workforce. Mr. President, this bill would apply to all retired employees. In addition to that, why is this legislation needed? Before COVID, certain departments were already facing hiring and retention challenges, and several had a notable number of vacancies. This situation, unfortunately, has only gotten worse since early 2020. The past couple of years with the pandemic, the civil unrest, and what some people have called, and I don't like the term, but the period of great resignation, we have had a black swan event, meaning when we have a black swan event, it is an unpredictable event that is beyond what is normally expected of a situation, and it has potentially severe consequences. However, in the face of this challenge, we have an opportunity with this legislation, Mr. President, to come up with a short-term solution to fill vacancies and deliver city services in a more efficient and effective manner. Many city positions have extensive training and onboarding requirements, such as a 9-month long police academy and a 6+ month long training for L&I inspectors. We do not have the luxury of time to recruit and train all new employees in order to fill vacancies. We are facing a crisis now, and we must respond accordingly. So to me, this is just adding another tool in Philadelphia's toolbox to ensure that we are making the public health and public safety of our city our number one priority. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Those 5 bills will be referred to committee.
I still have the remaining titles to read, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Also offered are an ordinance establishing no truck parking restrictions near various locations, including recreation centers, libraries, parks, and schools in the 9th Council District, and an ordinance amending Section 2 of an ordinance bill number 180560, approved July 10, 2018, entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines of grades in a portion of City Plan number 250 by striking from the City Plan and vacating the legally open portion of Montour Street from Adams Avenue to Falkland Street.
Those will be referred to committee.
Also offered are 4 resolutions, entitled a resolution adding Bryant Lamar Hurd II to the street signs on the 5200 block of North Mack Street,
Next week's calendar.
and a resolution adding DJ Diamond Cuts to the street signs on the 7100 block of Georgian Road in honor of her trailblazing work to represent women in the hip-hop industry, advance local artists, and serve the people of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution adding the Honorable Marion B. Tasco to the street signs on the block intersections of the 7900 block of Mansfield Avenue between Vernon Road and Slocum Street in recognition of Councilwoman Tasco's tremendous service and contributions to the city of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution calling on the Philadelphia Department of Public Health to exercise the full extent of its authority to address public health issues relating to the sale of tobacco products, including hookah, in violation of tobacco retailer permit provisions of the Philadelphia Code.
Next week's calendar.
Mr. President, I apologize, sir. I wanted to just note for that final resolution that is prime co-sponsored by Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Record shall reflect that.
Councilwoman Gim offers 1 resolution, entitled a resolution recognizing and honoring the 50th anniversary of Philadelphia's first Gay Pride March as a celebration of LGBTQ plus liberation and declaring June 2022 in Philadelphia as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Mr. President, Councilwoman Gim would like to be recognized for motion on this resolution.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Yes, thank you very much, Council President. Because of the timing, I request that there be special consideration to consider this resolution on this week's calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to allow reading on this week's calendar. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. And that will be on this week's calendar.
Councilman Jones offers 1 bill and 2 resolutions entitled an ordinance authorizing encroachments in the nature of a pedestrian underpass in the vicinity of 5700 through 5730 City Avenue.
Committee.
And a resolution also naming the 1700 block of North 49th Street as Ken Carter Way in honor of Charles Kenneth Carter, a board member of the Business Association of West Parkside, who passed away on August 9, 2021.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 650 North Conestoga Street, 658 North Conestoga Street, 662 North Conestoga Street, 5436 West Gerard Avenue, 5552 Harmer Street, 642 North Sickle Street, 644 North Sickle Street, 653 North Sickle Street, 534 through 36 North 54th Street, 538-40 North 54th Street, 546 North 54th Street, 550 North 54th Street.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Johnson offers 9 bills and 4 resolutions. Entitled an ordinance authorizing the Chief Executive Officer of Philadelphia International Airport to enter into a use and lease agreement between the city and each of the airlines servicing Philadelphia International Airport. And an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan number 375 by placing on the city plan a certain portion of 67th Street previously stricken from the city plan, extending southeastwardly from the present terminus of 67th Street southeast of Essington Avenue to connect with the presently disconnected portion of 67th Street. And an ordinance amending subsection 11 leases and subleases of section 17107 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Contractors, Labor Management Relationships to provide that any city airport operating agreement or regulations of the city concerning rates and charges for the use of airport gates and other facilities shall be deemed to incorporate the prevailing wage requirements applicable to city leases, covered airport service contracts, and covered airport service employees. And an ordinance authorizing the striking from City Plan number 97 and abandoning of a right-of-way for drainage purposes and water main purposes in the vicinity of Broad Street and extending from Washington Avenue to Carpenter Street. And an ordinance amending section 12701 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Designation of Bicycle Lanes to authorize a bicycle lane on Grace Avenue from 34th Street to Washington Avenue. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to grant PICO Energy Company an easement for the purpose of installing transmission lines across a portion of the parcel or parcels of land in the area bounded by 34th Street, Grace Avenue, and the Schuylkill Pier and line. And an ordinance amending Chapter 193900 entitled Tax Exemptions for Long-Time Owner Occupants of Residential Properties to modify parameters of tax exemptions for long-time residential owner occupants. And an ordinance amending Chapter 2300 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Property Assessment to expand the Office of Property Assessment's disclosure obligations. And an ordinance amending Chapter 192900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Senior Citizen Low-Income Special Tax Provisions to modify parameters of special tax provisions for low-income seniors, including the deadline for filing an application.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. Just have a few brief remarks on the package of bills I just recently introduced as relates to property tax relief. A few weeks ago, Philadelphians got hit by a ton of bricks. The Office of Property Assessment announced a 31% increase in residential property assessment citywide. The average assessment doubled in some neighborhoods, and the largest increases were concentrated in mostly poor, mostly black and brown neighborhoods. Even worse, these assessments are full of errors. Already, we've found examples of identical homes sitting side by side with some assessments that are hundreds of thousands of dollars apart. I wish I could say that I knew it was coming, but I didn't. Members of City Council found out at the same time the public did. The consequences of these reassessments are predictable and devastating. Senior citizens will have to decide between paying their property tax bills or paying for prescription medications. Working families will have to decide between paying their property tax bills or paying for daycare. Landlords will raise rents on tenants who could barely make rent already. People, mostly black and brown people, will have no choice but to leave their homes and communities where they have lived for generations. But it doesn't have to be this way. Not if this body acts boldly and decisively, and we will. Today, with the support of the supermajority of council, I am proud to announce the Save Our Homes Tax Relief Plan. It will stop displacement by making property taxes fair and more transparent. Moreover, this plan is revenue neutral. It simply takes the expected revenue increase from the latest property reassessments and gives the money back to where it belongs, which is to the people. This plan has 7 points. First, I propose to double the homestead exclusion. Homeowners will now pay taxes on the first $90,000 of their home's value. As a result, every homeowner will be able to get over $1,200 per year off their property tax bill. This will be amended to a pending homestead bill, which I introduced in 2020 of last year. Second, I propose to expand the senior citizens tax freeze. Eligible low-income seniors will be able to freeze their assessments retroactively at the 2018 levels. This is a bill which is also being introduced today. Third, I propose to expand eligibility for LOOP, which caps assessment for long-time homeowners who have seen sudden spikes in their assessments. It will fix a regressive formula for calculating eligibility. And I will also establish a second eligibility track for homeowners who receive large increases that are spread out over a few years rather than a single year. This is also a bill being introduced today. I propose to mandate that the Office of Property Assessment publish more data and publish it sooner. There should be no mysteries or surprises when it comes to your property taxes. More transparency means more accountability. Fifth, I propose to budget $2.5 million for outreach. Most Philadelphia homeowners don't know yet their property assessments have skyrocketed, and they won't know for months because of delays of the Office of Property Assessment and mailing out notices. We need to let people know that their property tax bill are going to increase, and we need to let them know what they can do about it, from filling out assessment appeals, first levels of review, and other tax relief measures that will help them address their property tax increases. I propose a $12 million budget to focus on rental assistance programs. As tax bills goes up, landlords will inevitably raise rents. Renters who can't pay more will also be displaced. And the federal pandemic relief funds that paid for city rental assistance have also ran out. As we give relief to homeowners to prevent displacement, it's only fair that we take in considerations those individuals who are also renting. And seventh, I propose a $2 million budget to support legal assistance for low-income individuals. This will include tax cases, tangled title cases, landlord-tenant cases, and more. With these funds, our nationally owned legal nonprofit organizations like Community Legal Services can increase their staffing as rising property taxes threaten to increase displacement. The 7-point plan goes into motion today with the filing of these three bills. As I previously mentioned, I want to personally thank all of the bill co-sponsors: Councilman Mark Squilla, Councilwoman Jamie Gaudier, Councilman Curtis Jones, Councilwoman Maria Kiona Sanchez, Councilwoman Cindy Bass, Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, Councilwoman Kathleen Gilmore Richardson, Councilman Derek Green, Councilwoman Helen Gim, Councilman Curtis Thomas, Councilman Kendra Brooks, and Councilman David O. I thank them for their partnership and look forward to working with them. Tax policy can be dry, it can be technical, but people's homes are at stake. Their dignity is at stake. Then it's our job to step up and step in. As the late, great Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King once said, the time is always right to do right. This plan is right, and now is the time. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Point of information.
I think you just want to make a slight correction, Councilman Jones.
Yes, Council member Curtis Thomas does not exist. He doesn't serve in this body. And
I stand corrected, Councilman Curtis Jones.
all right, my hero.
I believe he at some point had an interest in this job, but that never happened. Thank you. Thank you. Those bills will be referred to the appropriate committee.
Councilman Johnson offers 4 resolutions entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 13 pens, South Corley Street, 1315 South Corley Street, 1320, 1322, 1326, 1349 South Corley Street, and a resolution honoring Father's Day Rally Committee for its longstanding leadership and dedication to the physical and emotional well-being of African American communities, and particularly men of color, and a resolution recognizing June 22 as Gun Violence Awareness Month in Philadelphia.
Okay, those will be on next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs to hold hearings to examine the state of Philadelphia's parks and recreation system, and particularly the causes of Philadelphia's precipitous drop in the Trust for Public Lands National Rankings of Park Systems.
This week's calendar.
Councilwoman Sanchez offers 6 bills and 3 resolutions. Entitled an ordinance authorizing an existing bulk front addition at 401 through 407 East Wyoming Avenue. An ordinance delegating to the Philadelphia Streets Department the authority to regulate the direction of movement of traffic and establish parking restrictions on certain streets within the bounded area of Wyoming Avenue to 9th Street to Pike Street to Rising Sun Avenue. And an ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on Gillingham Street between Mulberry Street and Tacoma Street. And an ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on Meadow Street between Paul Street and Frankfurt Avenue. And an ordinance amending section 122700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Permit Parking Districts by amending the boundaries of certain permit parking districts. And an ordinance amending chapter 123000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Use of an Automated Red Light Enforcement System to Prevent Red Light Violations by authorizing the installation of a red light enforcement system at the intersection of Front Street and Hunting Park Avenue.
Those will be referred to committee and let the record reflect that Councilwoman Mona Sanchez is present.
Also offered by Councilwoman Sanchez are three resolutions. On behalf of Council President Clark, a resolution confirming the appointment of Sarah Ashley Andrews to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia.
Referred to committee.
And a resolution confirming the appointment of Chao Wing Lam to the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia.
Referred to committee.
And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Green offers 6 bills and 1 resolution. On behalf of Council President Clark, an ordinance authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of a service agreement between the City of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Energy Authority relating to the financing of the construction, equipping, and installation of an energy-efficient street lighting system and related improvements. And an ordinance authorizing the Philadelphia Gas Works by Philadelphia Facilities Management Corporation solely in its capacity as operator and manager of the city-owned gas works to enter into an amendment to lease with Germantown Realty Investment Group, certain premises located at 212 through 214 Shelton Avenue. And an ordinance approving a substantial amendment to the Annual Action Plan 2021-2022 to add $42,007,561 in Home American Rescue Plan funding. And an ordinance authorizing the Director of Planning and Development on behalf of the city to file applications with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for a community development block grant. And an ordinance authorizing the city treasurer on behalf of the city to enter into an amendment agreement with Citizens Bank of Pennsylvania for provision of payroll banking services to the city. And on his own behalf, Councilman Green offers an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2023 capital budget, providing for expenditures for the capital purposes of the Philadelphia Gas Works, including the supplying of funds in connection therewith, subject to certain constraints and conditions.
Will refer to committee.
And a resolution recognizing June 6 through 11, 2022 as Disability Pride Week in the City of Philadelphia.
And it'll be on next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gautier offers 9 bills. Entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades of a portion of City Plan Number 246 by striking from the City Plan 51st Street from Woodland Avenue to its terminus southeastwardly therefrom, and reserving and placing on the City Plan of right-of-way. And an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan Number 269 by relocating the curb lines, reducing the cartway width, modifying the curb grades, and lowering the curb elevations of Osler Circle from Civic Center Boulevard to a terminus northwestwardly therefrom, and from Curie Boulevard to a terminus southwardly therefrom. And an ordinance establishing no truck parking regulations on 53rd Street, both sides between Whitby Avenue and Broomall Street, and on Whitby Avenue, both sides between 53rd Street and 52nd Street. And an ordinance amending Section 9213 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Farmers Markets by adding a permissible location on Baltimore Avenue between 58th Street and 59th Street. And an ordinance establishing park regulations on Saybrook Avenue from Melville Street to 46th Street. And an ordinance authorizing the installation, ownership, and maintenance of various encroachments in the vicinity of 1 Convention Avenue. And an ordinance amending Chapter 12-3000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Use of an Automated Red Light Enforcement System to Prevent Red Light Violations by authorizing the installation of red light enforcement systems at the intersection of 58th Street and Baltimore Avenue. And an ordinance authorizing the striking from City Plan Number 130 and vacating an area for municipal purposes located at the intersection of the northeasterly side of Haverford Avenue, the westerly side of Wilton Street. And an ordinance amending Bill Number 1280, adopted June 30, 1982, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 12900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Parking Regulations and Penalties, and Chapter 12-1000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Parking Meter Regulations and Penalties, by respectively authorizing the Streets Department to establish and revise limited time parking regulations in areas expressly provided for by special ordinances, to install parking meters in areas expressly provided for by special ordinances, by increasing charges for metered parking, and by increasing penalties for violation of Chapter 12-1000, and further specifically designating the center, city, and university city areas for the purpose of authorizing the Streets Department to establish and revise limited time parking regulations.
Those will be referred to committee.
Councilman O'Neill, on behalf of Council President Clark, offers an ordinance authorizing the Chief Information Officer for the City of Philadelphia, on behalf of the City of Philadelphia, to enter into a professional services agreement for up to 60 months in order to obtain hosting and managed service for the One Philly HR benefits, payroll, time, and attendance system.
Referred to committee.
Councilman Squilla offers 7 bills and 1 resolution. Entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to convey to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development all or a portion of certain parcels of land in and about the area bounded by Wharton, 12th, Reed, and 11th Streets for further conveyance, to enter into a sublease agreement with the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development for use by the City of Philadelphia of a premises located at 1357 South 12th Street. And an ordinance amending Section 903 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Stopping, Standing, or Parking Prohibited at Certain Times to provide for regulation of such activity along Washington Avenue in the City of Philadelphia. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property and the Director of Commerce on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into a lease agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for property within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Interstate 95 right-of-way, being Spring Garden Street and Allegheny Avenue, as well as certain portions of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's North Delaware Avenue right-of-way between Spring Garden Street and Allegheny Avenue. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to convey to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania all or a portion of a parcel of parcels of land in and about the area bounded by Front Street, East Allen Street, Canal Street, and Laurel Street. And an ordinance amending Chapter 92300 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Protection of Displaced Contract Workers to extend protections for displaced contract workers to airport service employees and parking workers employed through service contracts or subcontracts to perform work within the City of Philadelphia. And an ordinance amending Section 9212 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Newsstands by adding provisions related to removal and relocation. And an ordinance authorizing the relocation of curb lines of Watt Street from Pine Street to a point northwardly therefrom on City Plan Number 308, and the plotting on City Plan of an area for public pedestrian use extending along the westerly side of said Pine Street, and authorizing acceptance of the grant to the city of the said area for public pedestrian use.
Those referred to committee.
And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 2868 Amber Street, 2022 East Fletcher Street, and 2106 East Stella Street in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers on behalf of Council President Clark an ordinance authorizing the Fire Commissioner and the Revenue Commissioner on behalf of the city to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Human Services to enable the city to maintain and provide access to emergency medical services.
Referred to committee.
Councilman O offers 3 bills and 3 resolutions. Entitled an ordinance amending Title II of the Philadelphia Code entitled City County Consolidation by adding new language to Section 2305, Office of Property Assessment, Chief Assessment Officer, Powers and Duties, requiring the Office of Property Assessment to publicize methodologies and specific formulas used to calculate property values before it can certify annual assessments. And an ordinance amending Chapter 19300 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Real Estate Taxes to establish rebates for early payment on real estate taxes. And an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to establish City Council oversight for real property assessment increases, and authorizing the appropriate officers to fix the date for the special election for such purpose.
This will be referred to the appropriate committee. The chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I appreciate and want to thank all the members of this body for responding to what is, I think, just a devastating assessment and tax problem in our city. I cannot understate the damage that this will do. By example, when I went to vote on Tuesday, I was met by a 60-year-old woman who had 2 strokes, who cried to me about the fact that she is paying $550 a month for her apartment, a small apartment in King Sessing. And she has to leave, but she's looking for another place at $550 a month. She cannot afford $625. But in that neighborhood, property assessments have gone up tremendously, double. And I doubt she will find another place for $550 eventually. We're trying to help her. We were able to help her to some degree. But it's not just the property values when people think of home ownership. It's also the rentals. Where in this city will you find a apartment, a studio for $550? In neighborhoods like the ones where assessments are going up at this rate. In 2018, I introduced a charter change. I'm reintroducing it. That charter change basically provides a process whereby council, a check and a balance on the administration, where council, elected most closely by the people and most close to the people, can have an opportunity through a formula whereby if the assessments overall are twice that of the consumer price index, which is typically about 8%, if it's over that, we can then get a preliminary review of the assessments, have an independent audit done, and if the audit comes back that it is below industry standard or less accurate than the prior year, then we have the opportunity to reject those property assessments. I think that is important. I think it has been important in the fact that there has been continuously a question and a doubt and a problem with these assessments. The second bill is a new bill, but it's just the fact that previously people could get a 10% discount if they paid earlier. And that bill is just reinstituting that 10%. And finally, the third bill, it requires that the methodology and formula be published publicly, but also to City Council and the Controller prior to OPA's certification of the assessments. They are required by law to do that. They never do it. They've never, ever done it. They certify the assessments. They don't publish the formula. They don't provide any meaningful substantive data. And I think it is important that before this process continues, they reveal all that information so the average homeowner, the everyday person, and their elected officials can check to make sure that these are accurate. And I support all the other efforts that my council colleagues are doing, and I encourage that we as a body do our utmost in every way to protect our residents and our public. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. As earlier, I referenced those bills will be referred to committee.
Councilman O offers 3 resolutions instead of the resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to establish City Council oversight regarding increased property assessment.
Referred to committee.
And a resolution honoring 14 of Philadelphia's most influential Asian Pacific Americans during Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Judge Maritani, Judge Ida Chen, Dr. Philip Jason, Inho O, Chief Inspector Wong by Sikema, Sayani Lee, Grace Uhiera, Cecilia Moy Yep, Nick Shanoy, Julie Huang, Sarah Chang, Piquant, Skip Voluntad Jr., and Reverend Peter Wang.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution designating September 23, 2022 as Multilingual Freedom Day in Latin America in recognition of the annual Latin American Book Fair event.
Next week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a report from the Committee on Law and Government.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Law and Government reports out 4 bills and 1 resolution with favorable recommendation.
Mr. Decker, please read that report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Law and Government, to which is referred Bill number 220049, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 21,000 of the Philadelphia Code, Political Contributions and Expenditures, to add and make changes to provisions regarding campaign contributions and disclosure of political committee expenditures. And Bill number 220187, entitled an ordinance providing for the submission of the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to create the Department of Aviation, to transfer the functions of certain city agencies with respect to the operations of the city's airports to the newly created department, and to provide for additional duties of the department as approved by resolution of the council. And Bill number 220360, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 2600 of the Philadelphia Code, Standards of Conduct and Ethics, by revising and extending the prohibition on retaliation and adding protections against interference with Board of Ethics proceedings. And Bill number 220361, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 21,000 of the Philadelphia Code, Political Contributions and Expenditures, to revise provisions and to make technical changes. And resolution number 220197, entitled the resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to create the Department of Aviation, to transfer the functions of certain city agencies with respect to the operations of the city's airports to the newly created department, and to provide for additional duties of the department, and providing for the submission of the amendment to the electors of Philadelphia. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached bills and resolution to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 220049, 220187, 220360, and 220361.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 220049, 220187, 220360, 220361. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. And these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. Resolution number 220197 will be placed on the final pass calendar at our next session of council. Chair now recognizes Councilman Squilla for a report from the Committee on License and Inspection.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman?
Are you speaking?
Councilman, do we have you?
Mr. President,
Yes.
on Member Squilla's behalf, the Committee on Licenses and Inspection reports one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Four.
4 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. The Committee on License and Inspection reports 4 bills with favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Licenses and Inspections, which is referred bill number 210677, entitled an ordinance amending Title 4 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled the Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code, by modifying what notice must be given regarding demolitions. And Bill number 210740, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 9-1000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Trades and Chapter 9-3000 entitled Sheet Metal Technician to create a license requirement for mechanical system contractors and to modify licensing requirements applicable to sheet metal systems technicians. And Bill number 220110, entitled an ordinance amending Section A303 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Demolition and Relocation of Structures to add additional requirements for the issuance of demolition permits for structures currently or previously used as religious facilities. And Bill number 220221, entitled an ordinance amending Title 4 of the Philadelphia Code, Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code, for revising Section PM 202 of Subcode PM, the Philadelphia Property Maintenance Code, entitled General Definitions, to revise definitions relating to drinking fountains and water dispensers, and revising Section PM 502.6 of Subcode PM entitled Schools, to add provisions relating to drinking facilities in schools and requiring filtration systems. Respectfully reports it is considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading this day of the bill number 210677, 210740, 220110, and 220221.
Second.
Second, that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210677, 210740, 220110, and 220221. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. And these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. And the chair now recognizes Councilman Squilla for report from the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development.
You're on mute. Member Squilla, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Commerce and Economic Development reports one bill out with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
The Committee on Commerce and Economic Development, to which was referred bill number 220337, entitled an ordinance amending Title 9 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Regulation of Businesses, Trades, and Professions, by adding a new chapter entitled Employer Commuter Transit Benefit Programs, to require certain employers to provide a mass transit and bicycle commuter benefit program. Respectfully reports it as considered and amended the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading this day of bill number 220337.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably second that the council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 220337. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it. This bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. That concludes our reports from committee. And our next order of business is the consideration of the calendar. I know the bill just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had a first reading, and these bills will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar on our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning resolutions on the final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following resolutions on the final passage calendar. They are resolution numbers 220460, 220461, 220462, 220464, 220465, 220466, 220467, 220468, 220469, 220470, 220471, 220472, 220473, 220475, 220476, 220477, and 220478.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda. Consider the resolutions just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Have it. Motion carries, and we will consider the resolution consent agenda shortly. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to the resolutions being considered on the consent agenda, the following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 220168, 220220, and 220359. All other bills and resolutions are being held, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. We will now proceed with our public comment session. But before we do that, I would like to take a 5-minute break to allow our technology professionals an opportunity to connect with our speakers for today. But that's all. We're going to take a quick break, allow you to do your thing. Thank you very much, and we are back. We will proceed with our public comment session. So now that everyone is connected to the meeting, and before considering resolutions and bills we have before us today, we will consider public comment that will go as follows. Public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final passes calendars for possible action, at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, your phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation, and add your name to the list. We will telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meetings under ideal circumstances, which we actually have today. You will have 3 minutes to speak, but every now and then, based on the volume, we may have to alter that time frame. In order to be fair to all those wishing to speak, though, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. And once invited to the meeting, you will be asked to begin your testimony. A timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony. And when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. Also reserve the right to limit the number of repetitious speakers from time to time to ensure that we don't affect callbacks for the public comment at the meeting. One last thing, please be aware that the public meeting is being recorded. Because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. I will thank you very much for your willingness to participate in our public comment session today. Now I ask Mr. Decker, please call the first name on the list.
The first speaker today we have is Jacqueline Williams, commenting on 220286.
Good morning. State your name for the
morning.
record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Yes. Yes, my name is Jacqueline Williams. I'm with Lancaster Avenue, 21st Century Business Association, CDC. LA 21 CDC is a nonprofit, and I'm calling in reference to bill number 220286. LA 21 CDC is a nonprofit located on Lancaster Avenue, Philadelphia, 19104, and we have a cleaning contract with the Commerce Department to clean Lancaster Avenue corridor from 34th to now Anjan Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to submit this testimony in regards to this bill. The TCB program is a program that helps local residents become employed. We have over 200 small business owners on Lancaster Avenue who benefit from this program. We are aware of the fact that a clean corridor leads to a safe corridor for the community to shop. Through this program, we're able to employ 6 local residents to help support our local economy. With increased funding, we will be able to do more by increasing the hours and hiring more local staff to work on the corridor. The current proposal on the table to fund this program is for $7 million. We support the proposed increase to $10 million. This expansion of the budget will ensure more corridors can be impacted by this powerful program by hiring more ambassadors and its impact on security and safety. With the increased funding, the contracts can be increased so that more local residents, many who do not have college degrees and may not have opportunities to be productive in the workplace, to have a position with a decent salary at the minimum of $15 per hour. This position gives them an opportunity to work and support their families. In addition, we would like to propose a $4 million to fund a flexible, nimble property acquisition and stabilization fund. This program can help CDCs have an opportunity to acquire formerly vacant land in the neighborhoods and their commercial corridors. They can assist their neighborhoods to meet the community needs. We know that there are many speculators and nuisance users that are buying up vacant properties. This fund can help the CDCs purchase the land and provide much-needed affordable housing. I would like to thank Councilperson Parker for her support and her leadership with the TCB program, and the council for allowing me to submit this testimony today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Felicia Coleman, commenting on 220168.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
This is Felicia Coleman. I live in the 5th Councilman District. I am calling in favor of 220168, but I also want to take into account that I have been looking at the homestead exemptions, the tax abatements, and I'm seeing some inequality. I mean, our properties can be reduced by $45,000 to save us, it says, an average of $629 per year. But in reality, we really need to do the Pennsylvania max of $90,000. And even with that, our properties have been assessed in the area where I live so much higher than when it was bought, when my property was bought in 1977, that my taxes I get sticker shock every time I see my tax assessment. So I'm asking in the future that you include layman's terms for all of us citizens that only read on a 6th grade level, because I can barely understand the information that I'm seeing on the internet, let alone people who don't, who just read on a 6th grade level. Also, I'm asking that when you assess my property, that you assess it based on the properties that are equal to mine. I've had so much new buildings going up that I don't feel that they're equal to mine. I can't afford to make any rehabs or improvements on my home because I can't even afford to buy the materials after paying all my bills. So I'm just asking that you keep that in mind as you move forward with the adjustments on how our properties are assessed. And I would appreciate if you all would come back in session in person so we can actually see and speak with you. Thank you for taking my testimony.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Tyrell Brown, commenting on LGBTQ Pride Month, introduced today by Councilwoman Gim and scheduled for consideration at the end of today's final passage calendar.
Good morning, everyone. I am Tyrell Brown. My pronouns are he, him. I am a community activist and organizer, the logistics convener for the PHL Pride Collective, and one of the lead coordinators for the PHL Pride 50 March and celebration on June 5th. I'm here in support of Council Member Gim's private Pride resolution. In our Pride planning for Our Pride, Our Joy for the 50th anniversary of Pride, we have found community, found love, made bonds, and strengthened old bonds, which in many ways stands inside the legacy of what our elders created 50 plus years ago. I'm proud to support this resolution as an organizer with the newly formed PHL Pride Collective. I know that it is crucial to commemorate and uplift the activism, community building, the organizing, the power building, and also to acknowledge and uplift the foundation laid by our LGBTQ plus and QT BIPOC elders so that we can be actually here able to stand on their shoulders while continuing the legacy of organizing for radical social justice born and built out of radical love for our community. The time is always now for us to stand up for justice, for liberation, and for the safety and security of our LGBTQ plus siblings and community. The time is always now for us to uplift the most marginalized into leadership so that way we can be the drivers of what's possible in our city and nation. The time is always now for us to commit to not simply reimagining how we celebrate, but also to commit to reimagining systems and institutions so that way we can eradicate discrimination and inequity and inequality. The time is always now for us to say to ourselves and to say out loud that we are wonderful beings who deserve to live lives full of love, full of family, and full of found family, and that we deserve all that we fought for and so much more still to come in our march towards queer liberation. The time is always now for us to show the world that love always wins, and I believe that this resolution does that. As noted here in the resolution, quote, the fight for equality for all LGBTQ plus Philadelphians is intersectional and deeply connected to the movements of racial justice. Racism and erasure of our experiences from queer people of color persist to this day, and the inclusion of these perspectives must be prioritized and centered in celebrations of LGBTQ plus pride, end quote. I'm proud that we are part of this historic moment as the collective that not only stands as a moment in LGBTQ plus history, but also as a moment in Black history, as Pride for the first time in Philadelphia is being organized by a trans, Black, and Brown-led organization. It's difficult to truly quantify the gravity of this resolution, especially as legislation across the nation attacks the trans community that really attacks our freedom and our right to live out loud. I will say that the first thing I thought about as a former preschool teacher is how this resolution will impact children and young folks for generations to come. The resolution stands as a moment in time in that our young ones can look up and use as inspiration for what's possible when we organize collectively, hold each other in love and care, and commit to building institutions that ultimately save lives, create family, more love, and exemplify the kind of world that we all deserve to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
There are no other speakers on the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our public comment session. We will now move to our calendar, and we will now consider today's resolution consent agenda. I will ask the clerk to please read the titles of all the resolutions on the consent agenda, and after each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the resolution on the resolution consent agenda. Upon such an objection, without debate, the resolution will be immediately removed from the resolution consent agenda and placed on today's regular final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, would you please now read the titles of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda?
Resolution number 220460, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2453 North Carlisle Street, located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 220461, entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 1 Garrison Court, 1221 and 1227 Bridge Avenue, 1253 and 1257 30th Street, 1265, 1271 and 1301 North Dover Street, 1304 North 29th Street, 1304, 1318 and 1322 North Dover Street, 1324 North Myrtlewood Street, 1332 North 29th Street, 1339, 1416 and 1642 North Newkirk Street, 1634 North 27th Street, 1648 and 1652 North 30th Street, 2712, 2714, 2810 and 2838 Cecil B. Moore Avenue, 2922 West Thompson Street, 607 North 12th Street, 629 North Camac Street, and 637 North Camac Street in the 5th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 220462, entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 1446 North Dover Street, 1446 North Newkirk Street, 1429 North Marston Street, and 1631 North Bailey Street in the 5th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 220464, entitled a resolution celebrating Philadelphia's breakthrough Grammy-nominated experimental pop band Japanese Breakfast for its pioneering sound and recent critical acclaim, and recognizing the band's frontwoman, Michelle Zauner, a powerful voice for AAPI women and Korean Americans, whose best-selling memoir, Crying in H Mart, a tribute to her late mother and the Korean food and culture that bound their love, has moved countless readers across the globe. And resolution number 220465, entitled a resolution also naming the 5700 block of Windale Avenue as Lady B Way, in honor of Lady B, to memorialize her legacy as a pioneer of hip-hop and an award-winning radio personality. And resolution number 220466, entitled a resolution also named the 6100 block of Vine Street as Mimi Brown Way, in honor of Mimi Brown, a well-known on-air personality and trailblazer in the radio industry for over 40 years. And resolution number 220467, entitled a resolution celebrating June as Reentry Awareness Month in Philadelphia and recognizing the accomplishments of returning citizens across Philadelphia. And resolution number 220468, entitled a resolution also naming 15th Street between Lombard and South Streets Wesley Way to honor the historic Wesley AME Zion Church. And resolution number 220469, entitled a resolution recognizing the month of June as Immigrant Heritage Month and Caribbean American Heritage Month in the city of Philadelphia. And resolution number 220470, entitled a resolution recognizing the Philadelphia Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated on the occasion of its 100th anniversary. And resolution number 220471, entitled a resolution recognizing May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the city of Philadelphia. And resolution number 220472, entitled a resolution recognizing Men's Fit on the occasion of their 15th anniversary celebration and expressing gratitude for their service to the men of Philadelphia. And resolution number 220473, entitled a resolution honoring American sports writer, author, screenwriter, radio personality, and sports commentator Ray Didinger on the announcement of his retirement from NBC Sports Philadelphia and 94.1 WIP Sports Radio, and congratulating him on an exciting and legendary career serving as a Philadelphia sports media icon for 53 years. And resolution number 220475, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 5026 North 7th Street located in the 8th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 220476, entitled a resolution renaming the 1700 block of Hunting Park Avenue in front of Simon Gratz High School, Rasheed Wallace Road, to honor Rasheed Wallace, a philanthropist, former NBA player, and entrepreneur. And resolution number 220477, entitled a resolution requesting the National Constitution Center give consideration to awarding the Philadelphia Liberty Medal to Vladimir Zelensky, President of Ukraine, for his courageous leadership in defense of democracy, freedom, and self-determination. And resolution number 220478, entitled a resolution recognizing and celebrating the 2022 Philippine Independence Week celebration from June 4th to June 18th.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion to adopt each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second that each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda has been adopted. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 220168.
An ordinance amending section 2305 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Office of Property Assessment, Chief Assessment Officers, Powers and Duties by further providing with respect to the manner in which assessments are determined for certain properties that are subject to resale restrictions, and by providing for additional reporting requirements with respect to such properties.
Thank you. Excuse me. This bill had been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Councilman O'Neill. Go ahead, Mr. Decker. Come back.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas.
Aye. This is Councilman Thomas.
Councilman Squill is aye also. Thank you.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15 and nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 220220.
An ordinance amending Title 19 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Finance, Taxes, and Collections by adding a new chapter, 194500, entitled Annual Reporting Relating to Unclaimed Property.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Today I rise respectfully requesting the support of all of my colleagues in council for Bill number 220220. As you all know, one of the most important responsibilities we have as members of Philadelphia City Council is appropriating funds. And it is on us to ensure we are addressing the needs of our constituents by ensuring we are funding the services and programs that improve their quality of life. And as we are currently engaged in this budget process, we are hearing every day from residents about funding priorities. Bill number 220220 requires the Director of Finance to provide an annual report to City Council on all the unclaimed property owed to the City of Philadelphia currently held by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is currently seeking the owners of nearly $4 billion in unclaimed property, which can be recovered free of charge. After the introduction of this bill and subsequent conversations with our city treasurer's office, there is at least $6 million in unclaimed property due back to the City of Philadelphia for the period covering 1999 to 2020. And all of those funds will be returned back to our general fund as a result of this legislation and the work of the city treasurer's office. I do not want to go another 21 years, leaving any additional city money on the table. And with this bill, there will be a required reporting process in place to ensure that the city is always claiming what is rightfully ours. I want to thank all of you very much for your consideration today and thank my constituent services representative, Beth Strain-Berry, and her brother, Bernie Strain, for this important legislative work. And colleagues, I hope you will support this important legislation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. This bill having been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye. Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Mr. President, I'd like to be recorded as aye on this bill and also on the previous one that I missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Record shall reflect that Councilman O'Neill was an aye on 220168 and 220220.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 220359.
An ordinance authorizing the City of Philadelphia to enter into a guaranteed energy savings contract for the evaluation and implementation of energy conservation and efficiency measures designed to reduce energy or other measurable consumption of operating costs of the city's municipal street lighting system.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I I am going to vote for this bill, but I just wanted to put some information on the record. As the chair of the Streets and Services Committee, we did meet with a number of different parties about this initiative, and we did communicate some of our concern around the possible health factors, as there are a lot of questions as it relates to the direction that we're going in with lights. Based on studies and information that we gathered, as well as things that are happening around the country, there could be some possible ill-advised consequences if this isn't done the right way. So I will be voting aye on this today, contingent upon the commitment that was discussed prior to the bill being introduced, that the administration and other parties will work with my office throughout the course of this implementation process. So I just wanted to put that information on the record. As one of the unfortunate things that we have to do is the chair of the Streets and Services Committee. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman, for bringing that to our attention. This bill had been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bath,
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks,
Aye.
Councilman Tom,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gibb,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman O,
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker,
Aye.
Councilwoman Goodwin Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilman Scola,
Aye.
Thomas,
Point of information, Council President. Councilmember Dom.
You're going to do mute. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Decker.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Council President Clark.
The ayes are 16, and the majority of members present having voted affirmative, the bill passes. I'm sorry, the bill passes.
I have additional resolutions, Mr. President.
Please proceed, Mr. Decker.
A resolution authorizing the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs to hold hearings to examine the state of Philadelphia's parks and recreation system, and particularly the causes of Philadelphia's precipitous drop in the Trust for Public Lands National Rankings of Park Systems, introduced today by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. Before I move to the adoption of the resolution, I just want to acknowledge the Chair of Parks and Recreation, and Councilwoman Cindy Bass, for joining me and focusing on the hearing that will hopefully in the future bring up the level of funding and investment that we do, particularly for our parks and our recreation system, at a level that's competent to other cities across the country. We dropped from 19 to 33. And so hopefully, as time goes along, we can get back to a higher level on that status. Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring the 50th anniversary of Philadelphia's first Gay Pride March as a celebration of LGBTQ plus liberation, and declaring June 2022 in Philadelphia as LGBTQ plus Pride Month, introduced today by Councilwoman Gibb.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gibb.
Thank you very much, Council President. With great gratitude to Mr. Brown, who spoke earlier very passionately about the not only the significance of the 50th anniversary, but its evolution and the role that LGBTQ plus Philadelphians have had in the city, transforming communities, uplifting civil rights, expanding our own notions of humanity. And with that, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our calendar for today. And prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this particular purpose. With that said, speeches on behalf of the minority, recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. Just last week, we experienced a mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. And this week, Uvalde, Texas, at the Robb Elementary School. And as a nation, I think we're just at a loss of words. And there are certainly many different ideas on what to do, how to respond, things like that. But I want to join with the pastor this morning to say that I do believe it is important for us to lift up those who are murdered and their families and their communities. It is important to recognize them and to express to them our sympathies, our condolences, our concerns, and then to take the actions that we have a responsibility to take to try to address these issues. We're at a very uncertain and unstable time. What will happen next? And it could not come at a worse time, but it comes at times like these. But on behalf of certainly myself and my family, and I know for each council member here, I just want to convey just our sympathies, which are just so shortcoming to those who are suffering and grieving at this time. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman, and we concur. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. I want to take a few minutes to thank my 12 council colleagues who signed on to a letter to the executives of U.S. Bank. The letter formally requests that U.S. Bank pauses all share sales and enter into negotiations with the city to reacquire hundreds of active community gardens, side yards, and potential sites for affordable housing development that are currently at risk of being sold off. I know many of you have been working on this issue for years, even decades, and I appreciate your partnership on this urgent task to returning power back to working class Black and Brown communities who are too accustomed to being priced out, pushed out, and sold out of their neighborhoods. I feel confident that together we will identify a permanent solution that will be able to protect these beloved community spaces that residents have spent years, decades in some cases, tending to. And I also feel that, like Councilmember O, that is necessary to acknowledge the collective grief and trauma caused by these mass shootings in Texas earlier this week that took the lives of 21 people, including 19 children. Like everyone who has young children or grandchildren or who have worked or volunteer in schools, this tragedy hits very close to home. As our country processes both rage and grief, we must recognize that unspeakable acts of violence against children are the responsibility of adults. And that, sick, violent adults who commit mass murders are the result of a failure of moral leadership, a poisonous arm of the Republican Party that fights against gun laws, encourages extremism, and condones violence. But let us lay blame where it's due, on the inaction of cowards in Texas and Harrisburg and across the country who fail to enact common sense gun laws. Let us lay blame on every adult of this country who fails to properly invest in resources, education, and support our young people who are sometimes turn into these same adults that we're talking about. And as someone who came out of education justice, I know firsthand the negative impact that metal detectors and school police have on Black children. And I hope that we collectively realize that turning our schools into high security prisons and turning our communities into military zones will do nothing to address this kind of violence. Increasing the presence of police and security in school is a trauma in and of itself, and it criminalizes young people. What our kids deserve is love, support, and fully funded public education. What our kids deserve is aggressively pursuing gun laws, holding leaders who promote violence accountable, and investing in mental health resources for people of all ages. And as we turn to our own gun violence crisis here in Philadelphia, where the lives of young people are stolen on a monthly, sometimes weekly, sometimes daily basis, I want to invite the viewing public to an event that my office is hosting on Saturday, June the 4th. The event we're calling Restore Our City. Will start at 11 a.m. at the Temple ER and end at the Broad Germantown Erie Triangle. It will be a march. It will be a community conversation. It will be a resource fair for survivors of gun violence and concerned neighbors. For more information about this event, you can visit bit.ly Restore Our City or visit any of my social media pages for more information. As a restorative justice practitioner, I believe that addressing cycles of harm starts with healing those who have been hurt. And in places like North Philadelphia, entire zip codes are traumatized by the constant presence of gun violence. And as my colleague, Councilmember Jones's 100 shooter report showed, over half of the shootings in our city stem from arguments, and many shooters have been victims of crimes themselves. My hope is that this event can repair damaged community relationships and bring resources to those in need, and to empower all residents who lead the charge for community safety. And I want to thank our event partner, McGee Rehabilitation Center, and several of my council colleagues who are collaborating with me on this event, and the grassroots anti-violence organizations who will be supporting us next Saturday for their dedication to this issue. Thank you so much, Council President, and thank you so much to all my colleagues.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Thank you, Council President. 2 or 3 quick comments. This weekend, of course, is Memorial Day, an American holiday, formerly known as Decoration Day. It's Monday, and it honors the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military for our country. And many of us will be out, hopefully with families. I just want to make sure we're all safe, and hopefully we can pray for as little violence as possible. I share my colleagues' sentiments on what they've said earlier. I just wish that we can come together as a country and put the political issues aside and just work for the betterment of the people. Seeing that shooting in Texas of 19 children just breaks your heart. It's terrible. I also want to speak about the resolution that was passed on the consent agenda for Ray Didinger. I want to thank my co-sponsors, Council Members Jones, Squilla, Bass, Green, Gilmore Richardson, Parker, and Gim. Thank you for co-sponsoring. I want to say a few words about Ray. Many of us have listened to Ray Didinger for years and years, keeping us all calm while reporting the ups and downs of our Philadelphia sports teams. And today we honor him as he is wrapping up his Hall of Fame career this Sunday on WIP 94.1. It's his last time to report to us after 53 years of reporting to all Philadelphians on Philadelphia sports. Pretty amazing. He's had an amazing career in the world of sports and journalism, and I'm not sure everyone knows the extent of his career. For those who do not know, he's a local Temple graduate. Amazing. He's also authored over 12 books throughout his career, 12 books, and he's the recipient of the Dick McCann Memorial Award from the Professional Football Writers Association. He's actually in the Pro Football Hall of Fame for his work. He's won the Pennsylvania Sports Writer of the Year Award 5 times. It's an award given out by the National Sportscasters and Sports Writers Association. And lastly, Ray Didinger is the author of the autobiographical play called Tommy and Me. And Philadelphians have enjoyed 6 productions of this play in the past. This play is actually going to appear in Hershey, I read about in August. And it's a autobiography basically about Tommy McDonald, a former Eagles player from the late 50s and 60s, and its relationship with Ray Didinger. Ray met Tommy McDonald when he was 10 years old in Hershey, where I understand that was the Eagles training camp at that time. And the play really talks about that relationship. It's pretty amazing. But as Ray takes the mic this weekend, I really want to thank him. I want to thank you, Ray, from all the sports fans who've served in Philadelphia for 53 years. You truly are a sports icon, and you will be missed by all of us. Really appreciate all you've done. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Council. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. This week has been very challenging in a lot of ways. Early part of this week, I was fortunate enough to host a group of state and local elected officials from around the country, part of an organization called the New Deal. Part of the Pennsylvania delegation of this group includes our Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, State Representative Jordan Harris, Commissioners from Montgomery County, Ken Lawrence, Josh Maxwell, as well as Mayor Paige Cognetti from Scranton, and Councilmember Erica Strasburg from Pittsburgh, along with myself. And the group has come together over the years. We were supposed to be here in April of 2020. Of course, we could not be here because of the pandemic, but we were able to come back to Philadelphia and have this idea summit, which we do every year in different states around the country, and then we have an annual conference in the fall. And during this idea summit, we're trying to talk about ways that we can bring back ideas back to our jurisdictions, and the fact that our country was founded here in Philadelphia, the fact that the idea of this nation was started here, that was one of the major motivations for the New Deal to want to come to Philadelphia in 2020 and stay committed to doing that this year. And as we were having this summit over 2 days at the Comcast Technology Center, the issue of what occurred both in Buffalo and then also what just happened in Texas is something that just really pains. I know a lot of us as members of council have a lot of concerns about this issue, and the issue of gun violence and access to guns. And I know there's going to be some, not in this body, but maybe in the Pennsylvania General Assembly, or maybe in the General Assembly in Texas, or members of Congress who will say, now is not the time to talk about gun reform. If now is not the time, when is the time? The carnage that we see in cities around our nation and the carnage that we see in these mass shootings are directly related to the inaction of one legislative and one political party. I mean, it's clear you cannot be for right to life, but don't stop the taking of life. And the fact that someone who was 18 years old in the state of Texas could buy a gun, but then couldn't do so many other things like drive a car is irreprehensible. The fact that we're doing this issue over and over and over again. When I think about the mass shooting that happened on December 14th, which is my birthday, I'm always going to think about the mass shootings that have occurred in this country, and it's happened once again in our country. And it's time for us to take the action as elected officials in Pennsylvania, in Congress, to stop the carnage in our cities and around our nation. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. I just had a loss of words. Ridiculous these people are. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to be very brief. First of all, I share the sentiments of my colleagues as it relates to the mass shootings across the country, as well as the gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. It's heartbreaking, to say the least, and I'll leave it there. I also want to thank the members of the Driving Equality Accountability Team. We convened for the first time this past week with the goal of looking at and monitoring the legislation as the data becomes readily available, to assure that we are getting it right, and to assure that we are moving in the best interest of the constituents of Philadelphia. So I appreciate everybody on that team for volunteering their time. It was a great conversation this week, and I'm looking forward to working with folks moving forward so we can ensure that we're doing what's in the best interest of the citizens of Philadelphia. I also want to say thank you to my colleague, Councilmember Green, and other folks within the police department and fire department who joined me for a number of conversations this week related to mental health support, looking at overdose issues here in the city of Philadelphia, and discussing training and support systems that's needed for first responders, as well as other constituents across the city of Philadelphia who are witnessing trauma on a consistent basis because of the number of issues that we're facing. Overdoses. We talked about the gun violence and the crime. I always speak about the hit and run crisis that we're facing as well here in the city of Philadelphia, and just collectively brainstorming what are the best next steps and action items that we can do as a collective to address these issues. So thank you, Council President. I appreciate the time, and I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues as well as other stakeholders to address these issues.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. And I'll be brief. A lot of my sentiments were already expressed by my colleagues. One, I think we're all in a state of shock as it relates to the mass shooting that took place in Texas, and most importantly, beyond our thoughts and prayers are just at the point where action needs to take place. Like, it's just real simple. It also highlights why this upcoming election in November is so critically important on a national level. And so elections do have consequences in terms of when you do not participate. And this is another example how we really must come out. But also, I want to share something personal, though, as we embark upon Gun Violence Awareness Week next week. So I was in my home a couple of days ago watching the game. It was the Celtics and the Heat, and I'm relaxing, and I just hear pop, 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 pop. And so I jump up, I go to the window, and then I hear more pop, 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 pop. And I dial 911. And the phone just rings and rings and rings and rings. So no one never picks up. And I begin to call my neighbors to make sure they're okay. And it was a massive shootout on the corner of my block. But the part that totally shifted me, and I deal with this work on a day-to-day basis, was the trauma impact that it had on my son. Most of you know my boys. My oldest, Isaiah Mandela Johnson, very, very inquisitive young man, very sensitive young man, and wanted to know if the officers were hurt, if someone got hurt. And I would and for myself, I was a little dumbfounded because how am I going to explain that more than 60 shots were shot on the corner of our block with a young lady being shot to a 7-year-old? Like, that's not normal. We do this work on a day-to-day basis, but it also just reinvigorates me in terms of why we do this work, why it's critically important to focus on 3 things. You got intervention, you got prevention, but you also have to do enforcement. There always have to be a 3-pronged approach of making sure we're keeping our young people safe, we're keeping our seniors safe, and we're keeping our neighbors safe. And so I do know for Gun Violence Awareness Week next week, after council, we will be acknowledging various groups who are victims of, who are survivors and victims of gun violence, who have created their own organizations. We also will be having a prayer for the city where we're asking for all faith-based institutions to just take a moment out of their pulpit, out of their mosques, right, out of their cathedrals, and just speak on this issue of gun violence that's taking place here in the city of Philadelphia. I'm one to believe that prayer changes things, right? and top of that with some action. And so on June 7th, also, I'll be convening a mini summit discussion around this very same issue in the caucus room. And I'll give all of you the details because we have to continue to meet, strategize until we get it right at the end of the day. Because other than that, we will continue seeing a cycle over and over and over and over again. And so, Council President, I just want to just thank you for the time, for the remarks. We always say enough is enough, but truly enough is enough. And so if things don't change, then we need to take a look at ourselves as a city. As a city. There's a lot of issues that we're working on, but kids are dying day in and day out in the streets of Philadelphia. When they hit home and you got to tell your young son who's 7, we ain't had that conversation. I just told him he's safe and because he shouldn't have to be exposed to gunshots in the neighborhood at the age of 7. But that's the reality of what we're dealing with, especially when you live in, neighborhood that I live in. So I just want to share that from a personal note. But it makes my resolve even stronger to protect my boys and protect my family. And here's the kicker. Because people get this idea that we're in Ivory Towers as council people, similar to what happened to Jamie Gardner. No one knows when we walk outside. I mean, they know us from the work that we do, right? But that don't stop somebody from pulling out a gun and shooting at somebody else. And you or your siblings or your children get shot down just like the average individual. And so I just want to share that unfortunate experience. But nevertheless, my resolve stays strong to stay on this issue working with my colleagues. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Bad times. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Winona Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. I also want to add my voice to the concerns, the outrage, the frustration, and the anger of the inaction around this gun issue. And for this reason, I articulated yesterday during our hearings with the police commissioner and sent in writing a request to the managing director's office. The last 3 weeks, I've been fielding calls from friends groups from Wissinoming to Furco Playground to Juniata Park to Hunting Park around already what are some challenges in our parks and recreation centers. All of us are advocating strongly to have a historic number of schools open with extracurricular activities for young people, play streets, pools, all the things we want young people and alternatives to keep young people engaged and safe this summer. The current strategy that these places will be protected by the police department is not a real plan, and it's not a sustainable plan. It assumes that already the police commissioner has been very vocal in saying she is short-staffed, in addition to the summer vacation requirements from the police department, that they are going to do the best they can with what they have. That's what you continue to hear, right? And we appreciate all that. Well, that's not good enough. I want to make sure that we set up this summer tone very early on, that parks are open spaces and these schools are going to be safe. And for that reason, and using the model as the police commissioner alluded to, the downtown detail, special detail, is a complement to additional security and private security that's been hired by businesses downtown. That, along with the police detail, right, has been part of the strategy to make people feel more comfortable about workers coming downtown and people coming downtown and spending their money. I want us to use the same drive and foresight and say, then we should do the same thing with our schools, our rec centers, our libraries, and other places. For me, that I represent East Division and Northeast East Division, when you say to me that the police captain in the 24th, Captain Rosario, who's down 40 men with a summer schedule, is also going to make sure that kids are safe at McPherson, you're setting him up for failure. And so what I've requested from the administration is, and we should do this through Scotland Yards, it's not like we don't have our partner organizations, let's hire security officers early on in the summer set the tone, support our park rangers, support our schools, right? And create security zones that for our young people so that they can have and our families can have a safe summer. But I cannot, and I will not let anybody say we didn't expect this. We know what's coming this summer. I fear what's coming this summer in neighborhoods like Kensington. I want to be as proactive as possible. I think we need to, just like the private sector did downtown, I think we need to say, how do we support security early on, set a tone in these places so that our police can continue to do what they're doing through through their GVI and hotspot zones. But let us not make the police department responsible for something they cannot handle and they cannot manage without some support. And telling us they're going to do the best they can with what they have should not be acceptable to any of us. So I'm going to ask my colleagues to support this kind of conversation, encourage you to talk through with all of the district council people in particular, to talk to your captains so they can openly tell you how short-staffed they expect to be this summer, how redeployment strategies change on a daily basis in the city of Philadelphia, and how uncomfortable they are, right? Because when something happens in the district, they're the ones that are the most frustrated. Because in their minds, they're not able to do their jobs. And they're not able to do their jobs because they don't have the adequate resources. But yet then we want to hold them accountable. So I want to have a safe summer. I want to have an engaged summer. I want people to use these parks. But I also want to be proactive and preventive as much as possible. So I hope that we can think of this summer differently and that we can support these spaces for families and children differently, that we can set a different tone so people can be safe and learn and do all of the things that young people should be doing during their summer off. So thank you very much, Council President. Look forward to working with my colleagues on this. Encourage them to talk to their commanding officers. Encourage them to talk to their neighborhood parks and rec folks. I know they're getting the same calls I get, right? There's somebody out there with with the boom at 11 o'clock at night, all of those types of things. We need to early on in the summer set a tone that these are family spaces and that they are still in neighborhoods and many places where we have seniors and others that, at a certain time we have to say, folks, it's time to go home and tomorrow's another day, next weekend is another day, and that we can move forward. So thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. I guess we're all frustrated about the environment, process, all the above, but at the end of the day, we got elected to figure it out, and that's what we're going to have to do. At the end of the day, people are looking to us to figure this out, and we're going to do what we have to do. We just have to. I know it's difficult to be the glass half full kind of person right about now, but that's what we have to be. We got to figure this out. So thank you. That appears to conclude our speeches on behalf of the minority and the majority. All right, good. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Yes, Mr. President.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to say a word, but I got motivated truly by my colleagues. I kid you not. All of us were hitting a note, but we were singing in the same chorus. And it reminded me on election day, I was walking and one of my constituents came up to me and he grabbed me and he says, what can we do? What can I do to stop this violence? And it was a very simple question, and it stunned me to give a very simple answer. God doesn't let you pick always your battlefield, but you can choose to do battle where God put you. So what does that mean? If you're a teacher, teach. Teach empathy in the class like member Gilmore Richardson wants to do with conflict resolution. If you're a judge, give justice. You see not the person just on their bed on their worst day, but look beyond that and see what they really need to be their better selves. If you are the U.S. Senate, pass sensible gun laws. If you're the Court of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, let City Council pass sensible gun laws. Lost and stolen guns, reporting them should be a no-brainer. Mr. President, that's low-hanging fruit. If you are a parent, protect your kids. Be a parent, not their best friend. Go in their room, toss their bed, and say, what is this? And if there isn't a reasonable answer that ensues, you're not their friend, you're their parent. Guide them. So when I look at it, it's real easy. If you're a coach a team and pick young people that need you as a mentor. This is not that complicated if we do what we are supposed to do in the roles that God gave us to do battle. And I see it more every day. People make extreme differences that don't, have big titles. They don't have big titles, but they're out there teaching drills to kids that have nothing to do, that keep them from getting into trouble. So pretty much, let's stay in our lanes and let's double down. Let's double down. If we need to pass laws, let's pass better laws. We need to pass a budget. Let's do a more efficient, cost-effective budget that really has an impact. But after our thoughts and prayers, there better be some deeds. You can't just, think you've done your part by giving it to God and others to do. We have to take our patch, work our patch, because giving up is just not an alternative. If we give up on our children, we give up on our future. So we got to do what we got to do, and let's do it together. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can disagree agreeably, and let's show our kids a better way. And with that, Mr. President, I'm done.
Thank you, Councilman. I want to ask that you call for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, June 9th, 2022 at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, June 9th, 2022 at 10 a.m. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. And again, please be safe. Thank you. Love you guys.